Hey guys, it's Vince. I'm here today with a special guest, Ken Moy. Ken, you live in Boston, right? So, what do you do now? Because I saw your Facebook profile and you do a lot of fighting.
I'm a professional MMA fighter. I do not compete in the UFC, which is the biggest organization in the world, but I compete in the second biggest, which is Bellator MMA.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been doing that for a few years. I started fighting amateur maybe like 7 years ago, but I went pro like 3 years ago. And I do that as well as I am a personal trainer and instructor at the UFC gym and at Redline Fight Sports in Cambridge.
Cool, man. And then I guess you make a living from fighting and training people, huh?
Yeah, I used to work as an optician, so I sold glasses and made glasses and whatnot. And I was fighting all the while, but I find fighting and martial arts more fulfilling to me, so I decided to pursue that full time.
When did that happen?
It's been a year or so. Yeah, I'd say it's been like a year since I went into it full time, and it's been kind of rocky just because it's not as stable a profession, even a little bit. It's so unstable, in fact. So I've had a lot of highs and lows, but still going strong.
When growing up, did your parents want you to be like a doctor or lawyer, or did you kind of like, no, I want to do something else? Because you seem like the more artistic type.
Actually, it's funny you mentioned that because I originally did go to school for art, like in high school. And in Boston, there's a high school specifically for that called Boston Arts Academy. And I mean, my parents were very supportive about more or less whatever I wanted to do until I got into MMA. At which point my father, ironically enough, because he was a fighter, like did full contact karate and boxing all his life, he was like, Ken, don't do it. You're going to get brain damage. It's not worth it. Do something else with your time. But he wanted me to get a more like 9 to 5 kind of job, which is why I was working as an optician and got a degree in opticianry. But again, I did that for a few years, but it was nice, but it wasn't quite for me. So that's why I ended up switching over.
What was your upbringing like? Were they pretty traditional Asian parents, or were they like? It sounds like there's like you're second generation American, right?
Yeah, my father had immigrated here from Hong Kong when he was like 7. So he grew up mostly here, but at the same time he did, his family was very traditional Chinese. And my mom grew up in Newton, Massachusetts, so she was, she's been here her whole life. So I'd say it wasn't a very traditional upbringing, but some of my cousins and relatives and people I know had more of the, iconic experience in that regard.
What has been your experience like growing up? Were like all your Asian friends? Did you have a lot of Asian friends, or were they mixed? And then did all your Asian friends date Asian girls, or what was that situation like?
Well, actually, I grew up. Yeah, I didn't know many Asian kids growing up, or even now, most of the ones I know also train in MMA. I grew up in a neighborhood that was predominantly like Hispanic, and when I went to school, like, I was maybe one of like 10 Asian kids. Everyone else was either black, white, or Hispanic, depending on which school. The art school was more like was more mixed, but even then, not many Asian kids. And then I went to school in Roxbury later, where it was all black and Latina kids. It was like kind of like an inner city school. So I don't know. I mean, most of the Asian people that I was acquainted with, even if I didn't know them too personally, yeah, they did mostly date other Asians.
What about you? Were you good with girls from a young age, or were you like what was your dating life like?
Oh man, I was the worst ever. I was really fat and I got picked on a lot, and if you combine that with also being, I got picked on for being Asian out of, everyone else not being Asian, and I was really fat and I was really awkward, so it was pretty awful actually, to be honest. It's like the things that, you have those moments when you look back on your life, the most embarrassing moments, and you just cringe.
Yeah.
That was like my entire dating life for a long, long time.
Yeah, that sucks. No, I know the feeling. I wasn't
really,
fat.
That's funny because you're like a model now, and you're like surrounded by all these like beautiful women, and like.
You know what's funny, dude? I was just looking at my Facebook, and I noticed that a lot of the cool kids I looked up in high school. There's one kid, his name is Chris. Like no one would know, but he was like the guy who dated like the hottest girls in high school. He was like he was on the basketball team like me, and he just had like really hot girlfriends. And I look at his Facebook now, and it's like his profile pic is like him and like his pug. and like all his pictures are like him and his dog, and he's gotten fat, and I'm like, wow, like it's so weird how that changes.
Some people peak early, man.
Yeah, so that's really strange. But it was interesting to see. But so like, okay, so you were picked on a little bit. What did you in high school, or did you go to college, and then did it get better, or what the situation? When did it kind of change for you, or was there a tipping point, or did it gradually change, or what happened?
It went back and forth a lot, actually. I remember when I was maybe like 12 or 13, I was like, yo, I'm so sick of being fat. I'm going to diet. I'm going to work out every day. I'm going to get in shape. So I was just like a pudge ball. And the first girl I ever asked out, she just completely rejected. I didn't even have the balls to ask her out. I just like, I don't know, she found out that I liked her and she just like made fun of me because I was like fat, and it was terrible. So I was like, fuck this. Like, I'm over that.
Yeah.
So I lost weight, whatever. And then suddenly when I was skinnier, I had a lot more confidence, and then I was just like, like talking to girls more, and it wasn't a big deal. So maybe, I was like 14 maybe, and I dated a couple girls, like briefly. I'm like, 13, 14. It's not like real shit, but at the time it was a big deal for me.
Yeah.
I dated a couple girls, and let's see, the first two were white, and then another was Asian, Korean. And I was really into her, but this is gonna sound so stupid, but she broke up with me, but I was like 14 and I thought I was quote unquote in love with her, and then I just like went off the deep end, started eating like McDonald's every day to cope with the sorrow. Gained 50 pounds, went right back to being really awkward and like introverted again, because I guess I lost a lot of my confidence. And I don't think that I think the confidence was way more important than being thin, but for me it was just so linked that once I gained the weight back, I lost.
But then you were in by then you were in high school, right?
Yeah.
And then what happened then?
High school was pretty brutal. It was more the same, just getting like picked on and not really having any success. Then I found MMA, and I definitely, I lost like 30 pounds from that, and got in really good shape, and it also just, feeling, I just felt more confident. Like I think that, you play basketball, a lot of people play sports, and just having that physical outlet, it gives them some confidence because they know they can move around in their body and they feel, poised and, just they're in touch with themselves. And I think that helps a lot. And when I started doing that, it started to turn around for me. There was this girl, that I really liked, and she was, so here's the interesting thing, right? I always also had in my head that, an Asian guy can never date, a girl that isn't Asian. I mean, I guess I had, dated a couple of white girls, but I always felt like it was just like pure luck and it would never happen again. And like, why would a white girl want to go out with me or whatever?
It's like a one-time thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like I thought I just got lucky, and it's just that's the end of it for me.
Yeah.
But there's this girl where like she had like, she was really petite, had blonde hair, green eyes, like that kind of thing. And I was just like, I don't know. But, we were friends, and eventually, I made a move, and she just completely like, I don't know, she just like wasn't into it. She's like, nah, I don't know. And she started dating, or she was also into like, some other tall white guy, and I just felt like, how can I compare? But, I don't even remember how it happened, but I guess just through persistence or something, we ended up dating, for a while, a couple years, and it was, for me, it was a big confidence boost just because I was like, oh shit, like I'm with this like really like cute, like, like blonde girl, and like, it's awesome and everything's great. And it didn't work out. We ended up breaking up, but it was like a paradigm shift for me. Like I realized, okay, well maybe like, maybe that's not so unattainable. Maybe that is something that's, within my grasp. And, from there, that's where I started to turn around.
When you say you're persistent, were you like, you were her friend first and then you just kind of kept on chasing, or how did that work?
Yeah, I guess I was her friend first, and I mean, I think that we always had like some sort of attraction, but when I first, when I first presented it, she was not sure, and I think what can happen sometimes is people get really weird about it. Like I see this all the time. It's like terrible. Dudes get like really like butthurt about it, and then they like, I don't know, they like either lash out or just like stop talking to her completely, or just shit, And I'm a big believer of like, if you were someone's friend, if you're really someone's friend, even if they don't like you back in that way, you can still enjoy your time with them or whatever.
Right.
You just, move on romantically. But, so I guess, I sort of was like still into her, but I was like, alright, whatever. I still let it be known that I was into her, but I wasn't gonna like make a big freak out over it. And I guess she just sort of came around after a couple months.
So after that, did you ever learn like how to pick up girls, or were you kind of like just naturally became good with girls?
So after we broke up, I was really like kind of like down and like I didn't know what to do. And one of my friends, what did he do? He suggested I read this book called The Game. Everyone knows what that is. And I didn't actually read it. I just looked it up online. I was like, what is all this? And then I started, hearing about all the like, it seemed really complicated to me. Like all this like the indirect game. I was like, what the fuck is all this? Like I don't even understand. This is so complex. I don't think I can handle this. But then I came across, the other theory, like the, more direct, like, you ever heard of, Sasha Pua?
Yeah, I know Sasha. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that, even though it was so crazy, and I think wasn't even about like how effective it was or wasn't to me, but it was just an even bigger paradigm shift that, wow, like you can actually just walk up to a girl and start talking to her. Like I thought you had to like do some elaborate routine so that you could even, address her, much less tell her that you think she's cute and want to go out with her.
Mm.
So I immediately was like, fuck, I have to try this. And it was really, kind of weird at first, but I started just talking to girls like all over the place and being like really direct. And, sometimes it didn't work out so well. Sometimes it led to a number. Sometimes the number didn't lead to anything. But from there, I started to date, a little bit more, and it led me to this one girl who I was in a relationship with for a while, who was just like my dream girl. I'm kind of a nerd. I like, like the geeky kind of girls, and especially like the sort of punk style, and she just was like perfect. Like she had like great body, beautiful face, like really cool haircut, like, sometimes it was like dyed a funny way, I don't know. Just like a great style, and for me that was like where it all turned around, because I was like, that took a lot of persistence actually, but once I started dating her, I was like, holy shit, like I guess like, fuck, for me this is like the dream. Anything's possible now.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
How did that go?
We were very, very happy for a few years, but I just had some fucking, me problems, and I ended up breaking it off, and then I started just kind of dating more casually, and I guess, fooling around with some other girls or whatever. Sometimes I regret it, because I thought about that girl a lot for like a long time, but, that's life for you. And then more recently I started dating, another girl, and almost all of the girls that I've been with actually. So here's the shocker, maybe. I've actually never slept with an Asian girl. I almost did. There's this girl who like I had seen sort of casually, and like, or we went on like a date, and we were like gonna like do stuff, or like we fooled around, but then we just never like sealed the deal. But other than that, it's always been white girls. I'm a big fan of white girls. I slept with one black girl, and she was like amazing, as a person as well as I guess a lover. But yeah, no, for me it's been almost exclusively white girls.
Sounds like you really have a tough time after your breakups. What are some, because a lot of guys are like, I know some Asian guys who end up dating outside their race, and then when they break up, they're devastated, right? It's like, oh, maybe it was a one-time thing. What do you say to those guys who are like, even just guys in general who have trouble recovering after a breakup?
Well, I mean, yeah, you're right. I do have a lot of trouble. Like, what happened to me was like, so, some people say like, the best way to get over someone is to get under someone. I think that depends on the person. So for me, like after I broke up with that girl who like my, kind of dream girl or whatever, I definitely started like having a lot more like, casual sex and stuff. And at first that was cool and it worked for me, but then it got into this really weird kind of unhealthy thing where I was like still like dreaming of like my ex, but then kind of trying to hook up with people. It just became like a huge fucking mess for my head. I don't know, sorry. That got a little sidetracked. I'd say what I tell other people is like, first off, yeah, sometimes you gotta, maybe date around a little bit to get it out of your system. But more than anything else, I think that you have to give yourself the time to like mourn and get over it and then truly move on. But it's a thin needle where you want to give yourself that time instead of just jumping into some other shit, because that can sometimes just could have you end up ruining a good thing. Like say you're not over your ex, but then you hook up with this other girl and she's actually really great for you, but since you're still not over your ex, you and this girl could have had a future, but you ruin it because you're still, like hanging on to baggage. That's no good either.
You're covering a damage with something distracting, but we still have to face the wound and heal. So it's like you're delaying that process a little bit.
That was perfectly said.
Yeah.
Much more succinctly than me going into it. Yeah, you're right. It's exactly that. Sometimes, you might need a quick Band-Aid, but then you are eventually going to have to sit and be by yourself for a little while.
Yeah.
And start to recover, just who you are outside of a relationship. And the trick is to then not dwell on that for the rest of your fucking life and never enter a relationship again.
Right. I think when you sit by yourself and that's when you get stronger, when you're alone. And you sit by yourself and you realize I'm okay. I'm still strong. That's when you get over a lot of stuff.
I think you're right in that. And also, you need to be able to be okay by yourself and happy by yourself, because if you feel like some other person is going to fill the void that you have, then that's a problem, because A, they're never going to be able to do that for you. And B, you'll just be hella desperate. You'll just, it'll come across in your interactions, which isn't attractive. So it's sort of like this, double-edged sword that just or rather this downward spiral where it just fucks you over, because you're oh, I need someone to be happy, and then when you meet someone, instead of being I'm happy, but you're cool, and I'd like to meet you because you're cool, you end up being please make me happy, I'm so unhappy right now, and then they'll not want to be with you because that's weird, and then you'll be further unhappy because you're damn, I need someone else to be happy, and no one else wants to be with me, and yeah, just terrible downward spiral.
Trust me, I know, man. A lot of students still come to me and be dude, Vince, I thought that I just want to be happy, and I'm dude, a girl won't make you happy. She'll make you happy for a few weeks, but it won't bring you peace and happiness. And they look disappointed when I tell them that. So,
dude, that's totally what I thought for the longest time. I was just I thought, being with that cute blonde girl would be that was it, man. That was the dream for me, and I thought that would be amazing.
Yeah.
And it was amazing, but then, I still had my own shit to deal with. And then that other girl, who was the cute, nerdy punk girl, she was just everything I'd ever dreamed of, in a girl. And even that was great for a long time, but, the answer isn't outside of yourself, I guess.
No, anything external is temporary, right? So, yeah, that's awesome, man. That's good. I'm glad we covered that, because I didn't get that deep in my other interviews, so that's really cool. Let's go lighter a bit.
I'm a tortured soul.
No, you definitely, you feel things more deeply, or you can articulate them better. I was gonna ask you something more lighthearted. So, do your Asian friends, right, if you have any, do they come up to you and be hey, Ken, how do you date white girls? Or does that never happen?
That has actually happened to me before. Or I've had a couple of friends be hey, how do you just, walk up to random girls and get their numbers?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's happened, and usually it's one of those things where I can give an answer, but it's not it's not as simple as that. You have to do the internal work and just kind of change the way you think about things and realize that. I mean, I think the biggest thing is just realizing that it's not, first off, more than anything, everyone, we're just so insignificant in the world. If you go out and hit on a girl and embarrass the fuck out of yourself in front of a million people, they'll all forget who you were the next day. It just doesn't even matter. So I think that that is huge, and just it seems kind of sad at first that you're so insignificant, but then it's kind of nice because you're also anonymous in that way, and it's even if you're if you make an ass of yourself, it just doesn't matter. So
sorry, it's dude, you're not that sorry, but you're not that important. You're not as important to other people as you think you are.
Yeah, no, exactly that. And I think that that's what holds people back. They don't want to, put themselves out there because they're, they're afraid. And I understand it sucks to be humiliated. I've been humiliated a lot, but at the end of the day, I remember it and they don't even remember it. So, it's only me who's holding on to it.
All right. So I'm going to play devil's advocate. So I'm going to pretend like I'm one of my students or someone I know. So, Ken, I don't know, man. I feel like, just white girls don't like Asian guys. So, I just kind of want to give up. I don't know why, I don't even know why I'm talking to you right now. I should just, go home and cry and play video games.
Well, see, this is why you're probably better suited to being a teacher of this stuff than I am. Because I'd be well, damn, if that's how you feel, maybe you should. No, but actually, I mean, I think that dude, this is like as an Asian guy being into white girls, this is like the most exciting time to be alive because you tons of like, that it's better for those couples than ever. You see tons of Asian guys walking around with white girls before. I mean, for a while, like at least in my city, was one of the few, like, walking around with like, a beautiful white girl on my arm. But now I'm seeing it all over the place. I'm like, shit, like, this is, like a thing now. And that in itself, just how much you see it everywhere is proof that, there are white girls who are receptive to it. Also, I mean, this sounds silly, but media depictions can tell a lot and can influence a lot. And The Walking Dead, you see Glenn and Maggie, that's a thing now. People are into that shit. And like,
Yeah, but everyone's dead in that show, so they, she had no options.
Fair enough. No. Don't worry about Maggie herself. Don't worry about the characters. I'm just saying, now you've got tons of white girls. Like, literally, I've met people who are like, yo, Glenn is so hot, though. So, it's changing the way people think about it. I think just having one or two, it's not nearly enough, but having one or two Asian, male role models who are not shown as weak or asexual, in the media really does go a long way. And it does help just let people consider us in a different way. So I think that it's better than ever for that kind of thing. But that's not the important thing. The important thing is, like, at the end of the day, and this is a cliche, but everyone who knows it, and everyone who doesn't should learn it. It's just that, confidence and, just confidence is like the universal, attractive feature. Like, no one doesn't like or respect, at least, a confident guy. And I'm not saying just because you're confident, everyone's gonna like you. Cause like, even if you're like the best looking K-pop star in the world, there's someone who's just like, meh, not my type. Or even if you're the best looking white guy in the world, sometimes there's just like, there's a girl who's like, meh, not really for me. So that doesn't matter. But if you can approach someone in a respectful and confident way and, let them know that you like them or that you like to meet them or whatever, they might not be interested, but they're not going to be like, wow, that dude was awkward as shit. They'll be like, okay, like, I'm flattered. That guy was nice. And he's not my type, but hey, like, more power to him. Maybe the next one will like him.
Okay, cool. But Ken, you know what? All my friends are Asian. I've only dated Asian girls, and I don't know anyone who's outside of my race. Like, I don't even know where to start. What do I do?
I'd say if you never hang out with anyone outside of your race, first things first, just make some friends outside of your race, and you're gonna quickly see that they're not really that different. Like, I mean, there are some small cultural differences, but at the end of the day, like, we're all just people, and especially if you've been living in America, we're all American. Like, there's, again, minor differences, but you get to know people, they're not that different. So if you've been doing fine with Asian girls, you'll probably find that, again, if you get over that assumption that they're not going to like you just because you're Asian, you'll probably do fine.
But Ken, I went out yesterday and I talked to a few girls and they were so harsh. They rejected me and now I'm so sad and I don't know. I can't take the rejection, man. It's too much. It's too much.
I feel you, bro. I have days like that too. But I'd say one thing I'll say is that when you finally do score and meet someone who you really they click with you click with them, it'll be all worth it. And furthermore, you'll start to appreciate every rejection, because here's the thing: you've heard people say nothing worth having is easy. The rejection is what keeps people who don't really want it bad enough, who aren't tough enough, or who aren't persistent enough. It keeps them from ever getting where they want to be. So that's what's keeping the chumps away. So if you can like keep working through that, then you're A, not one of those guys, and B, it'll make it so much more worthwhile in the end. It's sort of like with fighting, like getting hit sucks, but if you can get used to and comfortable with getting hit, you suddenly realize like that's what gives you the advantage. You're okay with that pain, and you're that much tougher for it. And now like and it makes you realize that all those other people who couldn't handle that, that's what makes you puts you a step above them. so to speak. That was one hell of a rant. I may have lost my train of thought in there somewhere.
No, you make perfect sense. I mean, sometimes you need to feel the opponent's punches to understand their fighting style. So, like, to me, those are reference points, you know?
Absolutely. And I think that until I've heard people, I'm not like amazing with girls or anything. I mean, I've, been with some very attractive girls, but I'm no guru, but what people who are really amazing with girls have always told me is that, what they've always told me is that you're not going to be amazing with girls until you're not, it's not even not afraid of rejection, until you're numb to the rejection, until like it just doesn't matter to you anymore. You're never going to be able to just approach with, fearlessness. And I think it's similar to, again, the punching. Until, like, people when they first start, they're afraid of getting punched in the face. But until you've been punched in the face so much you don't care anymore, that's when you suddenly loosen up and you're like, and now you can suddenly block. But when you're so afraid of getting punched in the face, you'll like close your eyes and just eat the punches because you don't even know what's happening.
All right, last one. But Ken, you're fit, you're a good-looking guy. You have nice style. You're a fighter. I'm a virgin. And I'm the stereotype Asian guys are bad in bed. So like, I'm nervous. I don't know what to do.
Okay. Well, I'd say that first things first. If you want to attract, a girl that you find attractive, you should maximize yourself and make yourself as attractive as possible. I'm not saying you have to have like a, 6-pack abs or anything like that, but it probably would pay off to, go to the gym a couple times a week. And not even just for girls, but for yourself. You'll feel better, about yourself and happier. And then same with style. Like, if you dress well, oh my God, you've heard that phrase, like probably from a girl, that, like a well-dressed man or a man in a suit is like a woman in lingerie.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you definitely want to go out there and maximize your style. So, learn to dress, get in shape a little bit, and, that'll go a long way. And then suddenly, hey, you will be on the board. And again, it's not really like you have to be like, you don't have to be like super GQ like Rich Juan over here, and you don't have to be super, jacked like, I don't know, like me or something. A lot of the people I know who do the best with women actually are just kind of like, like they're in decent shape and they're like fairly well dressed. They don't look like stupid when they walk around. But it's just comes down to their confidence and their ability to be genuine and connect with people. And that goes further. And in terms of the stereotype with Asian guys being bad in bed, like the other thing is just everyone's different. Like there are things that will help, like things that generally work, but most of the time just like getting to know the girl you're with and finding out what works for her is more important than having a lot of sex. And the most important thing is, dude, just learn to love to eat pussy, because that's like universal. Like that is money right there. So there we go. That's all my thoughts on that.
I like how you can be a coach in my opinion, because a lot of guys just get overwhelmed with a lot of stuff, right? So they get into the spiral. And then what you said in the beginning of your answer was, okay, let's break it down one step at a time. And you address each issue, as its own, but individually on how it affects your life. So I think that was pretty good. That was a good response to sometimes a lot of the same inquiries we get from guys who are just lost or don't know what to do.
I mean, I've had all the exact same thoughts at some point, like literally all the exact same thoughts. And
yeah.
I mean, even like the in bed thing, like whoever I slept with, they liked it, but I was like, oh, it's just her. Like every other white girl I meet will not be satisfied with my egg roll or whatever. But I guess over time, just as I, was with more and more people, I was like, oh, okay, you know what? It seems that it's fine. Like, you have enough satisfied customers and you start, even more importantly, the biggest paradigm shift with like sex for me was when I realized, you know what? Like sex isn't even like a performance though. It's like, It's not like you're trying to go on and like impress her per se. It's more like a collaborative, experience. It's something we're doing together, not me showing you like, what sweet moves I learned from watching this Asian porn or something like that.
Right, exactly.
So I think that seeing it as collaborative will help a lot of guys and alleviate some of the the performance anxiety, because again, if you're trying to perform, it's like you're probably making it worse that way anyways.
I think most guys don't realize like porn sex is different than real sex. I think I confused.
Yeah, I just realized in hindsight I probably should not have made the Asian porn moves joke, because now people are gonna be like, oh shit, like let me look up some weird. I don't even know.
No, I think like for me, I watched porn for when I was young, and it was too long, so I didn't even know how to properly like be with someone, So that's another growing point.
One of my friends who is he is also like you, a male model.
Yeah.
And he gets it in like crazy. But something he told me on that topic was, he's like, yeah, like I used to think that it was supposed to be like porn, and like I thought like the longer I lasted, the better in bed I'd be. So I'd like I'd be fucking her for like 35, 40 minutes, just like jackhammer pounding her. And he's like, and she just like, I'm kind of sore, like, you done yet? And I'd be in my head like, yeah, I'm so fucking good. And they just kind of like look at me like I'm stupid. And so exactly what you said, not at all the same.
No, dude, you and I at this point, we've had our share. And even now, like when I'm with the girl, sometimes I'll ask her like, so what do you like or what gets you off? Because everyone's different. So it is, in that sense, it's a collaborative process. I mean, it's nice to know the basics, but at the end of the day, every girl I've met is a little bit different. So
it's so true. I remember this one time where, like, again, don't get me wrong, I'm not like a huge player. I don't usually like have like lines of women like waiting for me or something like that. But there's this time where I was seeing or like fooling around with a couple of people at once, and not at like at the same time, like, not like, but like two people within the same period, and one really liked it a certain way. I mean, how explicit can we get here? I mean, she liked basically having her clit like sucked kind of hard, and I was like, oh my god, are you sure? She's like, yeah, just do it. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And I was like, this would make most people like stab me or something, but sure. And then when I hooked up with this other girl during that time, I started doing that, and I just out of instinct, 'cause that's what I've been doing, she like shrieked like, what the fuck? I was like, oh shit, my bad, like my bad. So I think you're right, and I think that it shows everyone, guys don't like to ask for directions or whatever, but I think it shows a certain level of confidence and, more importantly, an investment in her pleasure when, like you said, you'll ask, hey, like, what gets you off? What do you like? And a lot of guys don't do that, I feel.
Yeah, this is not an Asian guy specific problem. This is like a guy problem in America. I think we're just so used to like following pop culture, and in this case, pop culture is not accurate. So, last thoughts for Asian guys out there? I think, any last thoughts for Asian guys out there who might be listening to this and they're like, oh, interesting. So maybe I should try some new stuff. And, I think your message has been pretty clear. Like, just go out there, have fun, be confident. And also, one thing you mentioned was like, the more experience you got, the more you realize like, sometimes when you have one or two experiences, it's easy to kind of say, oh, because I'm Asian or because this. But when you have more experience and reference points, you're like, okay, this is how the world works. And so like, now I can navigate within it as opposed to make assumptions that, I don't even know are true, right? Or I think are true, but in reality they're not. So.
Yeah, I think that, at the end of the day, like, I'm not trying to tell people that their worries aren't real. I mean, some of them aren't, but it's true that, hey, you are gonna hit on some girl at some point who like is hella racist and just hates like yellow people or something. But you know what? You'll be done with that in like 10 seconds. You'll be like, oh, cool, okay, moving on.
Yeah.
And there's just so many other people out there who do, there's people on both ends. Like, there's people who are like fucking weird, creepy, like, I don't even know what to call it. Like, like the weeaboos who just like wanna like suck an Asian egg roll just because they like anime or something. And that's kind of not what you really want either, probably. But then there's also people who are like, ew, no way. And, even more importantly, there's tons of people who are right in between, who, if they like you, it doesn't matter if you're black, white, or Asian. And I think that that's the biggest takeaway. Again, not to be cheesy, but it's just at the end of the day, we're like literally all just people. And, girls like sex just as much as guys do, and girls appreciate someone who can approach them, confidently and talk to them, again, confidently and like a person, like, not like a conquest, but just like another person. And I think that, everyone more or less is used to connecting with, they've got some friends or whatever who they can connect with, and it's just like, hey, go and connect with a stranger, and you may find that, you guys are like meant to be or something. Or you may not, and then there's like a bajillion other people out there, and it doesn't even matter, so don't take it personal. But, yeah, I mean, I think that at the end of the day, it's just as simple as, yo, we're all people, and if you get rejected, there's like a bajillion other people out there, so it doesn't matter.
Well said, man. I'll end it there, man. Hey, Hint, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.